I carried you home, taking all the weight off your shoulders. Now we're long gone, falling into 1 year older. It's funny how our love began when I was sober. Now I stumble in a room where nobody else cares. Now I'm in two minds thinking about you. I'm in two minds thinking whether I'm too kind to give you all of my truth. I'm in two minds thinking. Now I'm in two minds thinking about you. I'm in two minds thinking whether I'm too kind to give you all of my truth. I'm in two minds thinking. We've been knocked down way too many times, and now my tries deja vu round, spinning me into another lost time. Tell me where this road will end before I drive over the edge. Give me one break to recover myself, because I can't bear. Now I'm in two minds thinking about you. I'm in two minds thinking whether I'm too kind to give you all of my truth. I'm in two minds thinking. Now I'm in two minds thinking about you. I'm in two minds thinking whether I'm too kind to give you all of my truth. I'm in two minds thinking.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa, and I will be your co-host for today. Don't mind the green there. There's Sean's playing FIFA, the demo, but it's all awesome. Hope you all are doing really well today. It's another Thursday of Down in the Valley, and accompanying us today is our co-host Jacob Young. Jacob, how are you doing, man? Well, there's definitely there's a lot of good things that we can talk about. I think the Toros this week were pretty much did their job. You know, they got the 3 points. We'll be talking a lot more as time goes on. We will be talking as well about the match for this weekend against Colorado Springs Switchbacks. I can't even talk today for some reason. Well, mostly like every day I have that, but that's neither here nor there. So we're going to try, unless you guys want to call, because the phone lines are open, 956-622-5977. If you guys want to talk about something, you know, the phone lines are open. You want to talk about the Toros, about the actual game. Do you guys have some things that you want to talk about after last week's episode, where we're talking a couple different aspects about the team? You're more than welcome to do so, but you guys have to call. You know, this is your also show as well. and we're opening up the platform for you all, like I've said many times. Other than that, I don't think it's going to be a long episode this week, more along the lines because I do want to set up on this channel for just this time. On this channel, right a couple of minutes after the show ends, I do want to live stream the FIFA 19 demo. So it is going to be maybe an hour and a half of a show today, kind of depending if you all, like I said, if you guys have some hot takes you want to talk about, then yeah, we'll go ahead and extend it as far as we need to. But other than that, it's just something straightforward. We'll be talking about the two games, the game that passed this past weekend and the game that is coming up. But before we go any further, I do want to thank our friends on the Beautiful Game Network. Be sure to follow them on Twitter, Facebook. I believe they have an Instagram, although I'm not sure about that. Follow them at the BGNFM. You can also check out their website at www.bgn.fm. Where you can find our podcast there. You can find other USL podcasts like Sock Takes, Backchat Show, who, by the way, they are the podcast for the Colorado Springs Switchbacks. Give my friend Mark Turner a listen if you guys want to know a little bit more about this week's rivals. You can also check out down in the RGV.com that we have our articles, wallpapers. By the way, I do want to give a huge shout out to Aki Anime for his excellent work with our new wallpapers. So be sure to check them out at downontheRGV.com/wallpapers so you can download them for your mobile or for your PC. We also have our podcast there if you guys want to have a listen. SoundCloud, Google Play Store, iTunes, Stitcher. You can find our podcast there. So be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. And subscribe to us and give us a listen. We really do appreciate any little thing. Like always as well, we do have the tipping link open. It is on the description, so you guys want to donate $1, $3, whatever you guys want for us, so we can continue to add more stuff to this show. We would greatly appreciate it. And this helps not only down in the valley, but it also helps Generation Orange at the same time. So we really appreciate it. As you can see, we've added a lot of stuff. We've added the green screen. And if you guys haven't been here before and you don't believe me, then wrong one. No, I disappeared. And then now I reappear. So we have a green screen on. We have better lighting as well. So don't think that we're not doing anything with the money. See, there it is. It is going to a good cause, and we are trying to bring you better and more coverage of the Toros, the Dynamo, and the Dash in the case of Generation Orange, and of course the Toros, FC Brownsville, and the Barracudas for down in the valley. Having said all of this, man, Jacob, man, talk to us. How was your past week? Yeah, I mean, it's a huge battle for the top. With you had Phoenix Rising, Real Monarchs, and like you said as well, Orange County SC. Can you guys hear me? Okay, everything looks good. So it's been an interesting battle, and I think right now I was looking at the standings a couple of days ago, and the thing that I saw is that while mathematically the Toros are, I can't hear myself. Although mathematically the Toros still have a chance, they'd have to pretty much, like I've said many times before, and this one is literally, they'd have to win every game and make sure everybody else loses, because I believe we have 6 matches left after this Saturday's match. Let me verify that for you. Yes, we have 6 matches left. We have Colorado Switchbacks. We host Seattle Sounders. Reno 1868. We go over there. Then we host Fresno. Travel to Tulsa, and then travel to San Antonio FC. However, in the actual standings, the difference between the Toros and 8th place, who is St. Louis, is 43 minus 27, 37. You're talking about 16 points. So, which means you can only lose 2 points as long as everybody else on top of you keeps on losing, which you know that's not going to happen. However, we can't all be dull and gloom about this. Like I've mentioned many times before, I think this team has shown, and you kind of touched up on it with playing spoiler. I don't think it's as much playing spoiler, because unlike last year where we could say, oh yeah, we're playing spoiler, because they were a bad team for the most part under Junior. However, I think with these wins against the top teams, I think we're seeing these players' full potential, how they really play. The problem is they're young, and because of that, they're very inconsistent, because they don't have some sort of guidance or mentorship in the long term, or if you can say a full-time mentorship, full-time veterans on this team. They mentioned in the match against Phoenix Rising, I mean, no full-time USL player on this team, obviously excluding the players that come down from the Dynamo, are over 25 years of age. So it'd be interesting to see what pieces will be brought down, or not brought down, but what pieces will be coming in and getting a contract with the Toros for next year. Hopefully we can get some sort of veteranship under our wings, because we do have like a base team that's pretty much solid, or has shown their potential to do good, but you need that extra little sparkle of veteranship. I mean, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Keep on talking. Apparently, they can't hear you. Hold on. Um, why does these things always happen? Right. Jacob, are you there? Okay. Just continue to speak, because apparently not being you're not being heard on the stream, which is surprising for me, because everything had been working fine the last couple of weeks and have not moved anything at all in regards to that. Let's see. No. Continue to go ahead and keep on talking, Jacob. Yeah.
And it helps. And so next year, most likely, we can be like the Portland Timbers too, to where last place two up fighting for a playoff position, or better yet, a Western Conference title.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, we have the base of this team. You know, there's at the post game press conference, you know, we saw and we pretty much were confirmed in a way that we will have somebody else that will be coming in, another player that's been coming in, which is a player that isn't really new to the organization. Yeah, guys. Thank you all for your patience. It's just that when I connected the Elgato yesterday, for some reason it overrode the default speakers to the Elgato rather than for the actual soundboard. So really sorry about that. But yeah, you know, you have Camilo Monroy that will be coming in to this team. This is a player that has showed potential last year. I think he can. It's a player that can be best described as a similar play style to Chuy Enriquez. And however, his injuries kind of kept him out. And Carson, if you have anything you know, more in depth about Camilo Monroy, you know, be sure to go ahead and share it on the chat. You know, this is a player that had some potential, and I'm really looking forward to have him back. I think, if anything, you know, we just have to be very patient with these kids, and I mean, that's basically what most of this team is. They're kids. They're fresh. Most of them are fresh out of college. You know, most of them don't even have a lot of first division, you know, experience other than Connor, obviously, because he was with the MLS before, you know. So it's things that can only be taught through experience. And I think what also helps out more is, you know, we gotta continue to have some more experienced players, you know. And it does help having, you know, Tyler Derrick. I mean, just take a look at Saturday. You know, he was out there leading the defense, telling them what to do. He was very vocal. You know, he showed why he is one of the best goalkeepers in the MLS. You know, and I think our defenders are benefiting a lot from having a player like that behind them, telling them what they probably don't see. Because, like we've mentioned before, goalkeepers have the best view out of everybody because they see every other player that's on the pitch right in front of them. And sadly, you know, obviously, you know, the first goal was off of a corner kick. Just a lack, just I guess you can say, was kind of weak pressuring on the defense. But other than that, besides that, you know, I think that the Toros were able to contain Real Monarchs very well throughout the rest of the, I believe it was like, because the goal was scored like in the 13th minute. So from then on, it was pretty much contained really well.
Yeah, and you get back to the same exact thing that we've been talking all year is set pieces. One frustrating thing, if you look at mainly all of our goals that we've been scored against on have been basically through set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was impressed on the other side for RGVFC on the time that I got to actually watch the game. We crossed the ball well on our side, which was good. Well, I wouldn't say well, but we crossed the ball decently. You know, our players might have had a chance to, if they really wanted to, head the ball in or just have a shot there. So that's a good sign for sure. A lot of movement around, and now the goal to be up 2-1, that was a spectacular one.
Yeah, so we talked to Todd Warden after the match in the post-game conference, and I asked him, was this something that was already planned, based on the location of the ball, or did you decide to take the direct shot because you saw something in the Real Monarchs defense, that gave you the opportunity? And he mentioned to me that it was something that they've been practicing, before, so it was kind of predetermined like that. He saw that the defenders for Real Monarchs were all pretty much just inside the 18-yard box. And so there was a huge space between the goalkeeper and the last defender. And so what he did was he made a signal to Connor Donovan to run towards the near post, and he was going to shoot the ball, towards the far post. And by doing that, Connor Donovan would throw the goalkeeper off guard, because he'd be paying more attention to what Connor Donovan was going to do. And you saw it. By the time the goalkeeper reacted to the ball, which is, I have to say, whenever a goalkeeper gets scored on his side of the goal, like in a free kick like that, 9 times out of 10, it's the goalkeeper's fault. And in this case, it's exactly how they planned it. The goalkeeper was way too busy. Leaker was way too busy paying attention to what Connor Donovan was doing than to the shot. So by the time he saw that it was heading towards the goal, it was already too late. And so that was the 2-1 win for the Toros. Now, also, do want to say that in the first goal, it was a good cross, by Todd Warden towards the 6-yard box, and Aldo Quintanilla was very wary of it, and he just put all the power behind it that it was impossible for the goalkeeper to react in time. And personally, how are you doing, Harry? And Carson says, definitely a quality. We're talking about Camilo Monroy. He says, definitely a quality player. Quick, good vision, slick skill on the ball. I would maybe expect him to be a super sub down the stretch. Yeah, and that's one thing that we're kind of with the doubt. So, Jacob, my question to you regarding to Camilo Monroy before we continue on with the Real Monarchs match is, in the case of Camilo Monroy, we know that we pretty much released John Montaño and Guillermo Delgado, who took up international spots. Do you expect to see Camilo Monroy added to the roster for this season, for the rest of the season, for the 6 games that are left? Or do you think they'll wait till the off season, before preseason, to formally announce him as an RGV player?
Well, I could see this happening, which this has been a case before, but where it kind of sign him, but only to the practice squad, where he's just constantly practicing with the team to get ready. Do have an off season, so I don't expect him to be for these 6 games, but I do expect him to be there for the off season to get to know the team and things like that, because of how those signings, especially late in the season, what I'm trying to say is this late in the season, that's normally what happens to where they'll just get signed basically to get to know the team. And if he gets to know the team as well as Carlos Small did, then I see no problem.
And I think I think the point you're trying to make is it'll be similar to the case of Romilio Hernandez, where it was like that. He was 2 months with the practice squad, getting to know the team until later. That's when they formally announced him as part of the first team roster, which, like you say, there is a precedence there of that happening with this team. I think for the most part, I do kind of agree with you on that. I think that'd be the best case, or the best thing that they can do with him. More along the lines that you already have a full roster that's played most of the season together, and so it'll be kind of more of a hind race, to have him on when he hasn't been much getting a lot of minutes with this team compared to Bryce Marion, Chuy Enriquez, Carlos Small, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think, like you say, he is going to be somebody that's going to be coming in the offseason and is currently right now probably just practicing with the team. But push comes to shove, I mean, it's going to be an interesting addition to this team. I think Camilo Monroy is going to be coming in hungry to get a chance to prove what he's got, because last year he wasn't really his injury did not give him a chance to show what he brought to the table. So it'll be interesting to see more players like him. And another thing I saw going back to the Real Monarchs match, what I liked about this team. And Coach made a comment about this as well in the post-game conference. If you guys haven't seen the post-game conference videos, they are uploaded to our YouTube, so be sure to check them out there. We have Aldo Quintanilla, we have Todd Warden, and we also have Coach Echeverry's post-game conferences videos uploaded to YouTube. So be sure to check it out. But one of the things that he did mention, I don't remember if he said it on camera, is that in this game, the players were not scared. They were not afraid of the opposition, or they actually had confidence in themselves, which is something that for the most part they had been lacking. Which I don't know why, because they've given their best games against teams that are pretty much in the top 3. I mean, even against Phoenix Rising, yes, we lost 1-0, but Phoenix Rising, the only goal-scoring opportunity they had was just the goal. That's it. Everything else, it was all RGV. The goalkeeper had a lot of good saves, a lot of blocked shots, or just bad accuracy by the attackers, but they were there attacking and pressuring Phoenix Rising. They made them look bad in their own field. The difference is that Phoenix Rising, even though they were pressured a lot by the Toros, they didn't fall in a sense of urgency. They were very patient because they knew that with the talent that they had, that if they were given one opportunity, they were going to put it in, and that's exactly what happened. Sheldon Sullivan whiffs a ball, pulls an Edson in Rocket League inside his own box, and gives the opportunity to remind me of who the goal scorer was for Phoenix Rising. Yeah, Sheldon Sullivan, Harry.
Yeah, Sullivan, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying. Oh, wrong mouse. I'm trying to remember who scored the goal for Phoenix Rising. It was I know it started with an A. It was. I don't recall as well. Let me get that for you. Here we go. It was what's his name? Asante, Solomon Asante. Solomon Asante was the one who took advantage of that mistake by Sheldon Sullivan. And Harry Austin. Okay, so Harry brings up a good point, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with this. He says, with Real Monarchs, if you pressure them, they are not as good, so their blueprint is out.
It's true. You need to pressure them. Normally, if you pressure a lot of teams, their blueprint will be out because they'll be frazzled. And what a lot of teams don't do at the start of games. Why? Because obviously it's 90 minutes. And when you don't do that, you want to just counter, especially when you're on the road. This time, obviously, RGVFC was at home, and they've to get used to tougher teams like that. And so pressure a team, especially early. They're now the hunters instead of being.
They're not the hunted.
Yeah, exactly. They're not the hunted. Now they're the hunters, and so it changes that momentum, and it gives you the advantage that you're looking for.
Yeah, especially with the fact that they're used to being the ones that set up or take command is the word or the phrase that I'm looking for. They take command of the games. We saw that when we played against them at Real Monarchs. They commanded the game from minute 1 to minute 90 plus. In this match, they were completely surprised that the Toros were dominating, because they were dominating since the beginning. The Toros had some opportunities since the beginning. And then Real Monarchs around the 10th minute, kind of once things were settled down, they kind of took a little bit more a command, just barely. Like they had a little bit more possession, they had a little bit more of attacks. And then right before the goal, I believe it was a free kick by Real Monarchs that was saved in an excellent manner by Tyler Derrick, and that subsequent goal led to the first goal for Real Monarchs. And other than that, like I said, I think they were completely surprised that the Toros pretty much is like, yes, you scored first, and yes, you're number one, but we don't care. We're like, this is our house, and we're going to defend it. And I welcome that. I think I love that. It's something that lacked in the match against San Antonio, in the match against OKC Energy. That confidence in them to, I know who you are, but I don't care. We are the Toros. This is our home, and you're not going to get away alive from our home. And I think it's been the biggest difference, and that's. Coach actually said that. He said the biggest difference was the level of confidence in our guys.
Yeah, and I agree. It was the confidence by far, because basically seeing this when RGVFC went to LA and Orange County, because I noticed a totally different new team from there, as in just the way that they were. Well, when we played LA Galaxy and actually ended up losing that game. Sure, we tied. The way that we played, and when that other team, and so that was a big thing. And of course, then going on to Orange County and showing Orange County that we don't care that you're number 2 as well. We can beat you with 2 straight goals, and boom. That was an insane thing to watch, basically, because totally different team. And of course, then coming back home and playing a much less team, I guess the Toros in a way thought this team and we can come out and play, and just not giving the other team a lot of credit, and then boom, getting blown out of the water, which that would be, of course, SAFC. So it just, hopefully we see more consistency next year, because I'd like to see this confident team.
Yes.
But of course, we won't know.
I think one of the biggest issue with RGV is it's just that consistency. I think honestly that this team, the way they played against Real Monarchs this past Saturday, was a huge slap to the face to all of those who doubted Coach Echeverri. Because if you recall, Jacob, that there was it was a small amount of people, but they are the squeaky wheel in RGV social media, especially in Instagram. Making comments that, this coach is wasting these players' time this year because he doesn't know what he's doing, because he doesn't know how to adapt, because yada and yidi and yada. However, we know that's not the case, because in the beginning he's tried 4-2-3-1, right? And then he realized, hey, you know what? This isn't really working out because we're not having a lot of opportunities, or the ones that we do we're missing, And so he tried having a two striker formation, a 4-4-2, you can say. Kind of it worked for a while, and then in order to try to continue with the momentum and bringing in Bryce, bringing in Chewy, he would revert back to a 4-2-3-1. So he has moved his formation, his tactics, depending on how well this team is. It's not like, it's been a consistent lineup or a consistent formation, and because he wants that formation, he's putting the players in their wrong position. It's not like that. He is pretty much molding his tactics around the kind of players that he has at this moment. If you want Carlos Small, okay, you can have him as a winger because he does play as a winger. But you can also have him, for example, if you want to bring in Bryce, or you want to bring in Chewy when he's on the bench, and maybe you don't need to defend as much. Hey, we'll take out Pablo Aguilar, we'll take out Matias Alivar, and we'll put in Jordan Jones, Aldo Quintanilla, or Jordan Jones, Carlos Small, and and so it varies. And I think he has an idea of what he wants of this team, what kind of mentality he wants from these players, and his play style. I think he has a defined play style, and I just don't understand how a lot of people don't see this. Just last year we had somebody that you looked at how the Toros playing, and you're like, what are they playing? And this time with this season, You're talking about a team that loves to attack and has been doing decent in the defense for the most part. It's just that the fact that something happens in the 80+ minutes where they lose concentration. Because from 80th minute to before, more often than not, they were very solid in the back. So, like I said a couple weeks ago, we just have to prune this team. We have to prune the branches, get rid of the players that we don't really need, that do not have the commitment to the Toros, or do not have a commitment to want to move up to the Dynamo. Bring in players that do have that ambition, and or bring in players that fit better with Coach Echeverri's system. We have to be very patient with this team. And if you guys want more details as to why I believe this, be sure to tune into last week's episode. It is available right there on YouTube, or you can also go to all of our podcasting platforms. That last week's episode, it was a really good discussion with Sean and with Ray. About that. It was Sean, and then we had, I believe, Harry call in as well. No, or who called? Yeah, somebody called in, and we were talking about, all of that.
Was Johnny.
Johnny, we talked about, how fans can be have more participation with this organization, with this team, to try to help out with attendance, help out with the atmosphere. We talked about that. We talked about the history of the Toros, why the Toros are the way they are right now. And it all has to do, you have to look at the whole history of the Toros, the Dynamo from 2016 to right now to understand why it's like this. And we also talked about something else. Oh yeah, we talked about social media, how to handle yourself in social media in regards to if you guys have any criticism or concerns about this team. This isn't about, oh, I'm mad at the team, so I'm going to diss the players, or I'm going to diss the players' family. It's not how it works. There's a way to voice your concerns. I can assure you that the organization is listening to your concerns. But if you're going to be offensive about it, then they're not going to pay attention to you. If you're going to give constructive criticism and be respectful about the way you present your concern, they are listening to you about that because, hey, this guy cares about the team, and he's got an idea how we can do. When you're just offending, oh, this guy's just a troll, So there is etiquette, believe it or not, there is etiquette that you have to follow in social media. But I'm sure all of you that are listening, you probably knew that already, right? I guess you can say I am preaching to the choir here.
And Real Monarchs game for a second, because looking at the lineup, it's 4-4-2 once again. When RGVFC plays 4-4-2, those have been their most successful games. Why? Because they've got two strikers outside on the wing, but help when you just have one striker where it's like a 4-2-3-1 or something like that. I've seen more successful with the way that the lineup was, which of course Tyler Derrick on goal, and he had Manny Padilla on the outright on defense with Donovan next to him and Kyle Adams in the lineup, which I hadn't seen him in for a while, if I'm not mistaken. Sheldon Sullivan left with Nicolas Perea on the next, with Todd Wharton, the goal scorer, Pablo Aguilar, Chuy Enriquez, and then, of course, your two wingers, Aldo Quintanilla and Carlos Small. Perfect lineup. Yes, of course, you have some players that can come onto the bench, off of the bench, and you make this team even more electric than it already is. Perfect lineup right there. And talked about it before sometimes and said Jerson has found his lineup. Well, yes, things happen. Players get tired, and you have to change up the lineup. That's understandable. But I think with the 4-4-2 and the way that the lineup was that night versus Real Monarchs, that is the way that it needs to be constantly, with two wingers, two attackers.
And here's something I do want to bring up as well, because we talked about where is Aldo Quintanilla. Aldo Quintanilla did have an injury. If I'm not mistaken, it had something, I think Aldo Quintanilla mentioned it had something to do with his back. And Coach Echeverry said he was still hurt. He was still hurting from that injury. But Aldo Quintanilla himself says, I want to play. He had that hunger. He wanted to help this team. And personally, what I want to say is, sorry, I doubted Aldo Quintanilla for a while in the way he, because we thought maybe he lost some sort of motivation after being subbed out. You can say replaced by Carlos Small, but I think he's shown that he's still committed to this team. He still cares about this team, and he's going to continue to fight. I mean, like I said, that match he was playing, he was still hurt. He was not 100%, but he wanted to play, and he scored a goal. There is something interesting. I do want to get your thoughts on this. So, in around, I believe it was the 56th minute, you're 10 minutes after the first half, after the beginning of the second half, Carlos Small gets subbed out for Bryce Marion. This is a substitution that caught a lot of people off guard, because I mean, Carlos Small had been our best player, you know. But one of the things that, and talking to Coach Echeverry and to Todd Warden, we asked them about that. Well, what did y'all see, you know, from the Real Monarchs? And one of the things that they said, and I believe Todd Warden said this, was that they saw a certain weakness off of their left backs and right backs. They were too slow to react. And so Coach Echeverry decided to sacrifice one of our attackers and bring in Bryce Marion. And boy, did everything change after Bryce Marion came in. The team was
and I mean, that statement that you just said, that when Bryce Marion came out, the whole team was dynamic. Before Bryce Marion got injured or tactically sat out for a bit, or whatever the case might have been, we had seen before that he worked well with this whole organization and the team, and was able to make plays happen. And little kid that, when subbed in at the right time, yes, he is our super sub. I don't expect him to really start, but I do expect him to play in like the 60th, 70th minute to change a game where we just need a bit more tune, or to get back into the game or something along that line.
Do you think? Go ahead.
Subbing out Carlos Small, smart decision, because he can still play those wing positions no matter what. We've seen him as basically almost a center attacker mid. I wouldn't really call him a central attacker mid, but you get my point. He can play. You need him to.
Yeah, Carlos Small has a lot of mobility. I mean, you see him kind of float around the top, in the top portion of this team. You'll see him come back to try to get to receive some balls and help out Pablo, help out Matias, and receive the ball in the midfield and lead this attack. He does that a lot when you're playing with a two striker formation. He can play in the wing as well. You know, we've seen him many times when you do play with the three man forwards or three forwards. You see Carlos Small being placed out on the wing. You have either Jordan or Aldo Quintanilla up on top of the striker, and Chuy Enriquez on the other side, and he works there as well. But what they needed for this match, from what he saw, wasn't really strength or pace. What they needed was somebody with agility. And Bryce Marion is an excellent player if you want agility, and he showed it. You know, he has the vision, you know, to what he wants to do with this ball that a lot of kids his age would love to have. I think, you know, I think you can say that he's even better in that aspect than some older players. And that's one of the things that I did see. With Real Monarchs, we didn't need brute force. We needed smoothness. We needed creativity, you know, out on the wing in order to get past these defenders. And boy, like I said, he did the job well.
He really did. And I mean, that's what we had been missing on this team in a way. With Rising FC, if he was in that lineup, the game could have ended at a different score or something along the lines. And that's okay. What was going on, it was kind of testing season for RGVFC, which was sad to say, but at the same time, we all really knew what was going to come down. We didn't start to win halfway through the season, and of course we didn't. So going back to this, it was really nice to see him back in the lineup. I could already tell, wow, this team is different because of him. It was nice to see Aldo back. It was nice to see Bryce back, and just this team has to stay, and we have to be healthy coming into next year as well. This can bring motivation for having a chance to fight at the top next year. Yes, I know that there could be a chance next year, halfway through the season, or Aldo Quintanilla, Carlos Small, or someone, even Chuy Enriquez, to leave because that they're MLS ready. But for that time that we have them, with them.
Yeah, I mean, we know the way this team is run by the Dynamo that we can't expect players to stay in the long term. But we need to milk out of them as much as possible and take advantage of their short stay with us to get us better results and hopefully in the future, fight for a playoff position. Another thing I did want to mention, is you can see the difference is in this aspect between Wilmer Cabrera and Coach Echeverri. What I mean by this is one of the biggest complaints that we've had from Dynamo fans, and Sean, who's like right here, will not let me lie. One of the biggest complaints that fans have with Wilmer Cabrera is that his substitutions are out of time. Like the timing is off in a lot of the substitutions that he makes. What he said, tactically unaware. And look at Coach Echeverri. These substitutions, he made it at the right time, like you said, Jacob. This substitution to bring in Bryce Marion for Carlos Small came in at the right time, where the impact was great enough to make a difference on the scoreboard and get the opposition caught off guard. The biggest complaint that a lot of people have with his tactical unawareness is that Coach Cabrera makes the substitutions too late. When it said that on average a player takes like 15 minutes to get in the rhythm of the match, and he brings him in right at that time or just a bit before. It's like it doesn't give the player enough time to fully impact the course of the match. Whereas Coach Echeverri, he sees what needs to be done and he makes the change. Now it's just up to the player that he brings in, based on those characteristics, to really make a difference in this match. Another player that I do really want to showcase or have him stand out, or that stood out for me, was Chuy Enriquez. Not only did he help up front, he also sacrificed himself to help defend. And I think that's one of the biggest things that Chuy Enriquez has grown in his time here at the Toros. The fact that he's grown, or he's learned to sacrifice himself to help out with defense, recover the ball, and help build the attack out on the wing. I think it's something that not a lot of young players like to do, but he's getting his hands dirty lately, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I have figured out is that like a couple of these players on the team are on a totally different level. They want to go to the next level. They care. And when I was with Ray, I've seen this. He was talking to the coach after the game. Coach Echeverri was talking to Chuy after the game, which that was, and it want to give anything that he said off the record to us, so I'll just leave it at that. Cool thing is, we know this kid have a great game each game, and so if he is not, or trying to make a difference, then we would have to shake our heads and be like, or not be like, but just going on with this kid. Why isn't he performing the way that he is? So I'm glad that he has been able to just spark as well that RGVFC has needed.
Yeah, it's like Coach Echeverry knows the potential that this kid has, and he has the potential to be greater than USL. Maybe, a French player for MLS, but above USL. It's just like, and he knows that he can do it. That's why he pushes him to continue to put in his 100% every time he's on the field, whether he comes in as a sub or he starts for this team. And I mean, Chuy Enriquez is not a striker, but he is pretty much tied with Aldo Quintanilla as the leading goal scorer for this team. That has to say something. So Harry says, go ahead.
He kind of had to step in as this leading scorer in a way, because Aldo Quintanilla, we all know, was injured and still is technically injured. So, of course, giving that absence and just having Carlos Small and out for a bit, Chuy knew that he had to step up and make a difference with this team. And so that's why we saw him score a lot of these goals that to him. And it's great when you have a perfect defensive mindset and a perfect offensive mindset. You can put those two together. How you're able to build as a player.
Yeah, I mean, I really agree 100% with that. I know another player that I think is on his way to the Dynamo in the near future is Todd Warden, the captain. I think, he's shown leadership. I think the best part about Todd Warden is that he leads by example. He knows that he's got to give his 100%, and this Saturday he literally gave his 100% passing accuracy against Real Monarchs. It's not an easy feat. So he knows that the best way to show or gain the respect of the other players that you're leading is by you giving your 100%. And if they see that your leader, your captain, is giving it all out there, then they have to follow suit. So he's shown that leadership. He's shown that technical aspect out on the pitch. There are some things that obviously, like all players, there are some things that he needs to improve if he wants to get a shot at MLS. But I think he's shown that out of everything, I think he's shown a lot of good things with us at the Toros, to the fact that, I mean, he's been constantly called up by the Dynamo for Open Cup. I believe he got called up last year, and this year against NTX Rayados, he got called up as well by the Dynamo for Open Cup.
And if I'm not mistaken, that was the only game that really a lot of RGVFC players got called up for, because, as we all know, finally listened to their fans and decided we need to play all starters and maybe just a couple of could be starters like the likes of Memo Rodriguez and those other guys, Eric Bird. So kind of the reason why we didn't see him more or Aldo more with Houston, which it's all good because
we need him more here
to keep this player for a bit.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked about Real Monarchs, and I think that's pretty much we talked about pretty much everything that we needed to talk about that game. We got the 3 points, still not enough to even make a playoff push. That's out of the window, like we said in the beginning. But like we mentioned many times, these 6 matches that are left are pretty much tryouts for the 2019 season for the Toros. Coach Echeverry right now is going to be looking at his list. He's going to be like Santa Claus. He's going to make a list and check it twice to see who stays and who leaves during the off season from the Toros. and kind of give the Dynamo and Matt Jordan an idea what they need to look at to continue getting more players for the 2019 season. And so hopefully I can assure you it'll be a better season next year, as long as the Dynamo don't go in and grab the part from the parts bin, pretty much. He liked that. Yeah. So what do you expect from this game on Saturday against Colorado Springs? We're going up to Colorado Springs. Just letting you all know right now, which is high elevation. I don't think the pitch will be as bad as the last time we visited Colorado Springs, because back at that time, it was still extremely cold. It was like I think it was near or just above the freezing point. So I don't think that the pitch is going to be as big as a factor this time. But what do you expect from the Saturday?
Yeah, high elevation. It's going to be a lot higher elevation than, of course, RGVFC will be used to, because the viewers must know this is flat land. This is as flat as you can basically get, unless you're going to right at island, for example. So it to Colorado Springs, which at this time is absolutely insanely beautiful. So yes, temperature change will be huge, as in it will be maybe 70s or at
so okay,
80
so
degrees or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the weather right now for Colorado Springs. This Saturday, it's going to be sunny. So like I said, it's going to be beautiful. High 89, low of 57. It'll be a perfect day to play some soccer. The question is, I'm seeing also that the wind is at 11. It's going to be 11 miles per hour. So that may play a little bit of a factor, but I don't think it's that bad. Actually, I take that back, because remember we talked about last time that because it's at a high elevation, the weight of the ball is going to be less. So the players are going to have to get used to less air resistance in that fact, and so they're going to have to adjust the force that they hit the ball with accordingly. But other than that, like I said, we're not going to have to worry about it being freezing. We're not going to have to worry about the pitch being icy or anything like that. So I think this time it will be a really good game in between both teams. Having said that, man, like you said, what's your prediction?
For this game, I think RGVFC comes out with 1-1 draw, at worst 2-2 draw. I don't expect, even for a crazy expectation, maybe a red card or two, and then still a tie. I really think that these two teams are kind of level, and we've seen the way that RGVFC plays against regular opponents, per se, as in not first place or second place, just teams in mid-tables. We've seen how they play against those teams. It's a bit way, so I don't expect a crazy game, but I expect a calm, nice game to where RGVFC can get away with a point.
So you talked about the fact that they play differently when they don't play against top-level teams. And it seems like it's something that is pretty much consistent or normal in this confederation. I mean, and we're talking about national teams, you see it all the time where, for example, the U.S., where they play top-level teams, it seems like they bring their A game, or they've brought their A game to the match. But when they play against, later guys, but when they play against lesser teams like Trinidad and Tobago, Martinique, etc., it's like they let their foot off the pedal. Do you think that that's exactly what happens with RGV? Like they let their mind wander a little bit more because they don't see it as big of a pressure for them?
Oh, okay. You brought up the men's national team, so let me tell you something, especially about the Trinidad and Tobago game. That
No,
team just got old out of the blue. That team just got old.
no,
I don't
and
think
I'm
that
not bringing.
RGVFC gets extremely old.
No,
No,
I'm
it's
not
just
bringing it up to diss the men's national team. I'm just bringing it up as an example that you know. Whereas the fact that sometimes for example, even Mexico has this problem where except for under Juan Carlos Osorio, but usually like if they would play against Brazil or something, then they would beat them. Argentina is a whole nother different story, but yet, especially last World Cup, they completely struggled to the point where they were about to be eliminated. And thank you, Graham Susie, for saving our butts that time. But that's what I mean. So, for example, they have a bigger pressure. They have a more motivation to play to their full potential against the big guys. And they don't have as much motivation when they play with other teams that are at their level, per se. I hope you're trying to understand the point I'm trying to get.
Of course, I do. Yeah. Their mind wanders when they play, or not wonders, but they just don't feel like they're that focused when it comes to this mid-table team, basically. Yes, it's a bit different when they go on the road, as in I think why the Orange County game was so different when they played on the road was because they got used to the time in it, basically. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is LA, that's basically in Orange County. And so they got time to get rid of that jet lag. Over to yes, you're going to be an hour behind. Mm-hmm. It's going to be different. I think that's kind of why, as in jet lag and the way that the seats are now, even if you were to get your team first class, it's still pretty small leg room for the size of, obviously, RGVFC. So that can play a factor. Of course, it can't play that big of a factor. Then you've got to get your mind, as my favorite quote right now is Jimbo Fisher with as in just get your head knocked adjusted correctly, in a sense. So it's a mental game. You have to be feeling up to it. And my advice to the players for sure is, and one thing that you need to do as well, or you can drink enough water, but guess what? You still need electrolytes as well. Drink Pedialyte. That will get you hydrated, and that is basically how you will get maximum.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you with that. The players and the training staff have to take care of these players because, I mean, talking about how elevation plays an important factor to our health. When you're up high, you don't get as much. Every time you breathe, you don't get as much oxygen compared to near sea level like we are at RGV. The concentration of oxygen up at that elevation is much less than in the valley. So that's another thing they have to get accustomed to, and not a lot of people really get accustomed to that. So they're gonna get tired. Most of the players are gonna get tired easier, faster. It's some things that they need to consider for this match. I definitely agree that I think that this team has what it takes to get a tie up in Colorado Springs, and that's fine because there's so many factors that go against them. And like we've always said, when you play as a visitor, I guess you can say a decent result is a tie for that same reason. So I think it will be a 1-1 draw, and I don't think that the Toros are going to be flat out dominated by Colorado Springs switchbacks. So I do want to share some quotes that were given to us from the players Thank you, Amirani, for this email. So they talked to Coach Echeverry and they talked to Todd Warden in regards to this match. So let's go ahead and talk about what Coach Echeverry said. He says, it's a very difficult, talented team, talking about the Switchbacks, very athletic. We felt that when we played them at their place, it was up and down. They probably had a little bit of the advantage because of the altitude. Some of our guys had a tough time breathing, remember what I said, and dealing with the altitude, and so I think that was difficult. We gave up 2 goals and set pieces that we didn't really create anything where we were extremely dangerous, but we were applying the pressure. We feel we managed the game a little better even with the field conditions being tough. We hope to maintain the rhythm that we have and get some points over there. What you think?
I mean, what I think is, as I thought before, it's just true. It's getting your body ready, and you have a tough time breathing, of course. Feel just like we did, or just like basically you did. Mm-hmm. It's not winter time; it's actual
summer
season over there. So that is a plus. That, of course, you're getting that much warmer air. Same exact time, oxygen. To a good thing is just you got to breathe. You've got to make sure that you get benched, or in practice, you know, if you're practicing up there at high altitude, be ready with those oxygen machines. Go to the sidelines, or when they need a rest, they'll have to put the oxygen machines on their mouths to help. So it's just getting ready.
Yeah, it's just precautions. So then they also talked to Todd Warden, and they says this is on the team environment coming off a big win and using towards the upcoming match. He says we can definitely carry momentum to the next game. We know we are a much better team than our record shows, and beating the tops like we have shows it. Hopefully we can get a few more wins and end the season on a positive note. So that's pretty much self-explanatory, and he's not the only. He's not saying that just because he's a Toros player. Coach Echeverry did not say that in the post-game press conference just because he's the Toros coach. You're talking about people like Mike Watts, who is who is one of the announcers of the USL, saying that many times throughout the broadcasts. You look at this team, and I think he said it in this match as well against Real Monarchs. He said, you look at this, if I were to tell you that one of these teams is in first place and the other team is down on the table, the way you're looking at how the match is going on right now, you would not believe me if I told you that the Toros were the ones that are in 15th place. You know, so just keep that in mind, that this team plays better than the record shows. And we've said it many times, it's just those mental mistakes. Once we can get rid of those or minimize them as best as possible, I think you're looking at a very competitive team. We just need some to check on a couple of details and fix those things. And then they also talked to Nico Perea for the same thing. He says the team is very motivated after beating a very strong team, a team who was first in the standings. The RSL, actually this should be Real Monarchs, have always been one of the best teams in the league, and getting 3 points against them was very important. Obviously, that will help us against Colorado. We will get stronger, but we can't sit back too much. That game has passed, and obviously we are happy. But we know that Colorado is a strong team, and they also want to win. So it is very important to use that energy that we had this past Saturday and focus on using that same driven attitude towards Colorado. Guys in the chat, let us know your thoughts. We want to hear your thoughts, or you can go ahead and call in. Another thing I do want to bring up. So we've played against Colorado Springs. We've played them 6 times. We have defeated them 5 times, and they've only defeated us once, which was the first game we played against them this season. This season we've played them twice. We played them away on April 8th. We lost 2-1. You guys know that. You guys probably remember that match. And then we played them at home just a couple of weeks ago on July the 29th, and we defeated them 1-0 at home at HEB Park. So this is a team that historically has been one of the easier squads to play against for the Toros. However, once the whistle blows for the beginning of the match, all stats are thrown out the window. None of that matters anymore. It's all about what these players bring to the table or to the pitch the moment that whistle is blown. Jacob?
Yeah. So it just I don't really know what to say after that, because it's constantly they've been able to hit the nail on the head. More focused and make sure that you're with everything that goes on during the game. It's frustrating that sometimes, of course, we lose this mental we could have. Mm-hmm. And also going back on your point too, that you're saying that the announcers at the time just absolutely are saying this team is better than our. It's not frustrating. It's a good sign for next year.
Yeah, we gotta look at the positives. Cause I think there's more positives than negatives, even though we are kind of low in the standings. It's not unlike last year where it was major things that were causing us to be where we were at. I think this time it's just minor things that we need to tweak. And I keep on repeating that because I think a lot of people still fail to understand this point in regards to the results that we've been getting. And I think it's been rare. It's been rare, but we've been outscored like really bad. If we've lost like by 1 goal or something like that. So just give this team, trust this team, trust the process. I think Coach Echeverry will bring in the results later. What I have heard, this isn't official or anything like that. What I have heard, we are going to be getting at least one Dynamo player for this match against Colorado Springs Switchbacks. Who? I'm not sure. That's all that I know. But I think the only other thing that I can say, or what they have been told, is that this is a player that has been with us before. So I think it'll be a good help having him on. So that's all I can pretty much say. That we are going to have some Dynamo player, at least one, coming over with the Toros for this match against Colorado. So I really think that we are going to have should get a decent result on Saturday. And I think that's pretty much it. We're going to go ahead and go until like 8:30. That way can give me time to set up. Oh, no, not again. So anyways, so we talked about the Toros. I'm just going to ignore him. So we already talked about the Toros. We talked about this match against Real Monarchs. We talked about the match against Colorado. Let's talk about something we haven't talked about here in a while. And I don't think we've even had mentioned this. But I know you're going to love this discussion, Jacob. USA versus Mexico on Tuesday. Let's hear your thoughts.
Well, okay, yeah. Game. Yes, everyone's going to say that the first half was not great. I mean, just, it was game from, I think, the whistle to all the way from the start of the game to the 90th minute. Why do I say that? Because it was action-packed. Yes, United States men's national team did not start off the way that you would want a team to start off. They started off slow, in my opinion, and weren't fantastic, or didn't play up to Mexico's level. Came out and they had shot after shot, possession after possession, and USA looked sloppy, which
Jacob, you there?
I'm right here. And so in the second half, different game from the United States men's national team. They came out and it was like they wanted to play. They cared about this game because they came out, they had a lot more possession, and their passes were they were crisper in a way. Why would I say crisper? Because they actually, that it was supposed to, instead of not getting to the player that it was, as in most likely passing it to Mexico like they did in the first half. They didn't do that. Of course, the all expected excitement of the game, excitement of the rivalry finally showed up. By that, well, you can call it what you want, but it was basically a fight. And that was awesome because Mexico got annoyed. A couple of Mexico players got annoyed at the United States players, especially that one with Matt Miazga. It's simple. Matt Miazga steals the ball away from, I believe it was Gonzalez.
No, it was with Lainez, Diego Lainez.
Yeah, him. And so then he gets mad and kind of challenges him, gets a foul, and so of course Matt Miazga is going to turn around the thing that is now officially a meme, and it was the best thing ever because Matt Miazga is 6'1" or 6 feet, some around that.
I think Matt Miazga, he's really tall. He is, let me tell you right now, he is apparently 6'4".
Okay.
At 23 years old, he is 6'4". Diego Lainez, he is 5'6". He is 1 inch shorter than I am. You're talking on almost a foot of difference in height between Miazga and Diego Lainez. Granted, Diego Lainez is just barely turned 18. But, you know, it's typical for us Mexicans and of Mexican descent to be about average or shorter than average, you know, as far as height goes. I know there was a lot of backlash after that thing by Matt Miazga. Honestly, like, I was looking at this match, you know, kind of like neutral, and it's something that's kind of complicated to explain. But I was going to be happy whoever won either way. I just wanted to see what these kids from both sides, what the future would bring. And but what I saw from a lot of people complaining about Matt Miazga is that, oh, well, this is bullying, yada, yada, yada. I don't think of it like that because you probably have a different opinion, whoever's watching us right now. Oh, look, it's what's up, Ray? He said, Lainez is a midget. You can't see me. Okay, so Matt Miazga, this is more like this is trash talk. And if you're going to be offended by trash talk that happens a lot, and a lot worse even out on the streets when you're playing pickup soccer, then this isn't the sport for you. Trash talk it's all a mental thing. And guess what? It worked for the United States. It worked for Matt Miazga. After that incident, Mexico was not concentrated anymore. Right after that incident, Alvarado gets a red card. and Mexico just wasn't the same. They weren't playing the same as they were playing in the first half. So it's like they say, in war and love, pretty much anything goes. And this rivalry is pretty much a war between the United States and Mexico. And if the referee just said like, "Oh, that's not worthy of a yellow card," then good for Miazga, because he bent. You can say he bent the rules a little, but in the end, it worked out for into the United States' favor. And I have to say that goal by Adams, the whole play leading up to it, my respects. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate from Sarah. How do you pronounce this, the interim coach's name? Sarakan?
Let's see here. It's Day. Goodness, I'm gonna have to look up his name.
It's Sarakan. I don't know if it's Sarakan. I think it's Sarakan. Dave Sarakan.
Dave Sarakan. Sarakan.
Yeah. And so I think the fact that he gave these young guys an opportunity from a while back, like when he started his interimship, he gave these young guys an opportunity to continue to develop them as the future of the United States national team, and it's starting to pay dividends. I mean, they didn't play bad against Brazil, a stacked Brazil, pretty much the World Cup roster. And they didn't play bad for these young guys. They tied against the World Cup champions before the World Cup. And it all has to do because they're getting the chemistry between them. Not only that, as far as the national team, that they're getting chemistry as they get a lot more minutes playing against alongside each other. But it also helps that a lot of these players, unlike the Mexican national team, a lot of these players are playing in Europe, playing with some of the most top teams in Europe. Pulisic, for Borussia Dortmund. Miazga used to be with Chelsea. He's now with Nantes. Julian Green, I believe, he's with Bayern Munich, right?
Julian Green's with Bayern.
And I know we have a lot from the Bundesliga. So, and I was telling Sean that you can see the way, especially in the second half, when they had more confidence in each other, you saw that the way they were crossing the balls from one side of the pitch to the other, you saw that European influence in the way they were playing. And it was obvious the way that Mexico was playing that it wasn't going to last long. Because they were playing it's Liga MX style, and it became very repetitive. And besides Linus, okay, I have to check that. So Ray brings up a good point that he is loaned to another team, which is right now he is with. I am not even going to pronounce that.
Exactly. I looked that up. I was going to tell you, but
he's playing. He's playing in the 2 Bundesliga.
Greuther
Fürth. And I know I probably botched that. So if anybody's German that's all listening to us, I'm sorry. I tried my best. I'm not German. Yeah. Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, if it's true that it's the second tier, then of course, yeah, we're not going to pronounce that correctly because Americans basically only watch the Premier that they get in the Premier, the league that you get in the United States, basically.
Yeah. So the point is that because they're playing alongside players that are at a higher of a higher level. They're like when they're in the first division clubs fighting for a spot, or they're French players, they're practicing alongside these elite players for the most part. Pulisic, with Marco Reus and Mario Götze, you're starting to get the idea. So having these players alongside them, helps them mold, to a higher standard. compared to here in Liga MX, where, I mean, let's face it, I love Liga MX, but it's not at the level of some of these top European competitions, especially when it comes to the players that they bring in from abroad. Not including Guignac, because le pongo oxo, like I told Ray, and everything. Love that guy. But other than that, like most of the people that are foreign borns that go to Liga MX are just they're not really that great. And so most, if not all of these young guys that play for Mexico's, yes, you can say C team, but the problem is, it's like, yes, it's a C team, but this is the future for Mexico. And if they want this squad that they brought up to make it to 2022 and 2026, they're going to have to forget about Chicharito. They're going to have to forget about Miguel Layun. They're going to have to forget about West is doing right now with these young guys. And I personally think that right now the United States has pretty much a head start in that regard. If this lineup for the U.S. is going to be the consistent lineup that is going to be called up for these qualifiers, yeah, they're way ahead. They're way ahead of us. So I do have to give them props. I know at Generation Orange and here we've criticized the U.S. Soccer Federation for a long time because they deserved it. But in this case, I think David Sarachan made a good decision in getting these young guys the call-ups for the national team.
Yeah, and think about this. It's not even just David Sarachan. We can go all the way back to the year ago qualifier that the United States missed the World Cup. Well, right after that, basically, there was a whole mishap, or not mishap, but just a change in office and things like that. And so then it became, as well as, of course, the coach decided, look, we're going to need the young players. And, of course, the fans were asking that. And guess what? The American Outlaws, they listened to all of them and said, yeah, we need younger players. Puts the younger players in, and seen Julian Green in before, but he is phenomenal. And, of course, the likes of Timothy Weah, that man is just at the tip of the iceberg of potential, because that man has a ton to grow. Scott, because Matt Miazga, and they talked about it on the broadcast too when we were playing Mexico, he's with Chelsea. It's just because he gets at Chelsea like every day. What I mean by that is like the Chelsea Federation or whoever talks to him almost every day or a couple of days a week.
So there's still some connection between Miazga and Chelsea.
Exactly. And so that is huge to have that kind of connection with a top-tier team that is, I know it has been a long time since they've won a Champions League, but they've won one before. They've won a ton of Premier Leagues. So it's at that level where you're talking to these types of players. I'm going to make it there. That's a perfect mindset. And just these players that have fleshed out and then fleshed in now with these young guys, I think Zach Steffen's going to be a phenomenal keeper for the United States men's national team. And he made some amazing saves during the game in the first half, because I really will give props to Mexico, or just say that the United States did not play good soccer in the first half, because they should have been down goal or so in the first half with the way that Mexico was able to press and basically almost get goals. Zach Steffen has to tip one of the shots over the goal, and a ton of corner kicks for Mexico in the first half. I mean,
and let's not forget that play where Diego Lainez looked like Messi and made Tim Trapp look like an idiot, and he got the pass to his striker, but because the striker had to slide in order to get it because of the pressure by It wasn't Miosca, but he was left behind. I think it was the other center back that was covering. I believe it was Victor Guzman, and that took away the power needed to get past Zach Steffen. I think that one was the clearest opportunity that the United States had, or Mexico had, to go ahead 1-0. USA all the way.
Yeah. And just the second half, it was a totally different team than the United States, than even I was expecting when I was watching the game. The RGV American Outlaws there. And that was pretty fun. And of course, yeah, we brought up this good conversation, and it's true because, like, you kind of brought it up too, that a ton of, the Mexican national team, they're playing in. Why are they playing in Liga MX? Well, because it's like the MLS, or why go overseas when I can just go and play for my favorite beloved childhood club and already be making millions when I'm an 18-year-old.
And think about it.
Sleeping on someone's couch. It's so simple like that.
And here's another thing as well. And this was brought up by my friends that I usually talk about, who are a lot more Mexican fans. One of the biggest things, and Osorio brought it up, and he got backlash when he said it. But in that instance, I completely agreed with Osorio. This is a problem with the Mexicans, the Mexican players, especially this last generation, the Giovannis, the Spiricuetas, you name it. The problem that we have is a mentality issue. And this comes aligned in with the fact is they're already there in Mexico. If they make it, they're going to earn a lot of money. So that's all they care about. Why am I going to continue to pressure myself to do more if I'm already earning a lot of money in the MX? Why am I going to go to Europe to get paid less and have to put in more effort to even try to get a starting spot when I can have everything I want here in Mexico? And that is true. I mean, they land themselves in a comfort zone, and let's say you make it to the national team, boy, they earn a lot of money just with advertising. I mean, and there's obviously conspiracy theories to say because of that, they force whoever's in charge of the national team, they force them to, like, let's say, for example, the more famous, like Chicharito, the Dos Santos, Andres Guardado. So these are players that obviously they earn their name for themselves, at least with, for example, the marketing standpoint. Even though they're playing horrible, more often than not, they would still get called up to the national team, even though they pretty much gave no reasons for them to do so. They were still called up. Why? Because calling them up to the national team brings a lot of money to their sponsors and of the national team. So, for example, you know what the sponsors are, So it would make no sense to bring in a nobody to the Gold Cup or to the World Cup, even though they might play better, but it didn't have the big of a marketing punch compared to the Giovannis, like I said, the Memo Ochoas, Chicharitos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's the biggest issue right now with the Mexican Federation in that aspect, or was a big issue with that, was the fact that they always, whether it's players or the federation or the coaches, they always look at the business standpoint rather than the soccer standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. And glad that it's the opposite with the United States. Yes, sometimes they don't fully care, like as in just the front office, Statesman's national team sometimes doesn't really care that much with them, as in they just have their concern and it's up to the coach. Oh, yeah. But here's one thing that I do want to say on that note, actually. Get your act together. hire a coach unless, of course, you're going to end up as the head official coach, which let me tell you, I've talked to people, they do not want that to happen for the United States men's national team. Get yourself an actual good coach or someone even better that maybe is a name of a coach. But this one that I like, that not a lot of people do, this is valuable time that you are missing, United States men's national team, to hire someone.
Yeah, to get these young guys used to his tactics and his formation and everything else in between. I think I heard on the broadcast that they still have not, right? They still have not even made contact with anybody for the national team job, for the head coach. Yeah.
There's a rumor going around. They talked to Pereira.
That's the whole reason why he was.
Wait, Pereira?
Herrera.
Oh, Herrera? Mm-hmm. Miguel Herrera?
Yes.
What the heck? Did you hear that, Jacob?
That came from a legitimate source.
Herrera, yeah.
Okay.
That's how I responded. Don't feel bad. I was like, "There's no way," but apparently it's a legit thing. Berhalter. They spoke on Berhalter.
So Berhalter and Miguel Herrera have been coaches that they've been talking to.
Just so you know, GM guy whose name I can't remember right now because it's so bland. Eddie Robert? No, what's his name?
Yeah, I think it'd be a better.
No. Who's the GM? The national team GM. Who did they just hire? What's his name?
It is Ernie Stewart.
Ernie Stewart. Okay, thank you. See, I told you it was two names that were just generic names. Like it's like they randomly entered into FIFA career mode. Just randomize the name. Anyways, Ernie Stewart. So Ernie Stewart said he wanted to have a very short list of candidates that they'd already vetted before they began interviews. Mm-hmm. So it would not surprise me if they only bring in 2 or 3 candidates to talk to. So if they brought in Herrera to talk to, and they brought in Berhalter, it's possible they brought in a third, and that may be the entire list. So remember how I told you last week or 2 weeks ago, it's Berhalter. Mm-hmm. I continue to say it's Berhalter, and that's why. You heard it here first.
So let me know if you guys heard that. If not, I can pretty much repeat that. So basically, what Sean just said, if you guys didn't get to hear,
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So basically, what he said.
No, you're good. I'm not coming. I'm getting food for him.
Okay. So basically, what he said is that according to Ernie Stewart, is that they wanted to vet the list of players or the list of coaches before to like 2 or 3 before they actually did interviews with these potential hires. And if the names that are going around right now are Miguel Herrera and Berhalter, there may be a possibility of there being a third one, but that means that that's the 3. That's the top 3 names the ones that are being passed around. That's the top 3 candidates for this job.
And I know that they wanted to talk to Tata, but he didn't want to talk to him. So that may be your third.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your list. That's all I'm saying. That's not a very comprehensive list, in my opinion.
But I mean, if they vet it beforehand.
I'm okay with it.
Oh, looks like we have Ray coming
You
up.
started talking about U.S. men's national team, and now you got a caller. I bet
It's Ray.
Speaks Spanish too. See, didn't I call that?
What's up, Ray?
What's up, Ray?
Hold on.
I mean, I just kept hearing Sean in the background.
This is why you need me to cover your tech stuff.
Say again, Ray.
I just keep hearing Sean in the background. Will you just stop playing Rogue for a bit and just jump on?
Oh, he called you out. Like he said, he just hears you in the background, and he's like, "You should hop on."
Look, I ain't even dressed to come on the air, son. Do I need to school Ray in now? What was he calling me out on?
No, he's just saying that like you've been talking in the background, like.
That's because I've been playing FIFA. Oh, I'm muted, bro.
No, you're not.
Oh, I've been playing FIFA, bro. By the way, the demo's okay. No multiplayer. Kind of ashamed at that. I was hoping for multiplayer. No
So we
multiplayer.
will be
Couch co-op may be possible, though. It did appear that was possible.
but
It's all right, Sean. I gotta put this question on the table.
Jesus Christ. You see that? Good Lord. Y'all never see me without a hat, so just so you know, this is normal Sean right here. Well, you got the light right there blinding. I mean, it's not blinding.
No further comment on the hairline.
Well, I mean, the hairline. The problem is my hairline. You can still see is there. It's the problem is everything else in the middle is gone. Like I'm so thin that it's just not there. But regardless, no. Go ahead, Ray.
What's it gonna take to bring you down here to the valley? What do you need? Red carpet, orange carpet? What do you need?
I need that's actually a really good question. I actually do legitimately want to make it down for a match next season. I need to work it out with work. And I was telling Edson about my last week of this upcoming week of work, and it went from nothing to chaos overnight.
Wow.
And so in my line of work, things change rapidly and very fast. He can also attest to this. He's seen it. I've gone from nothing in like a dead week to everything's blowing up at once, and I've got to deal with it all. But yeah, I do want to make it down there for sure for a match next season. I'm just working. I want to work some things out on this end before I go. One of the big ones is we got to find somebody to watch our freaking dog. Because I can't just leave him in the apartment by himself. That would be like the worst thing we could do for 3 days or 2 days or whatever. I also hopefully would like to make it down for a holiday weekend so that it could be a 3-day weekend instead of just a 2-day weekend. Because Ed tests that drive back, if you come back after a 2-day weekend, that drive back is hell. And then getting up the next morning is even worse.
Gotcha.
So hopefully a 3-day weekend. So Toros management, if you're listening, schedule a match on a holiday weekend. Like, I don't know, Labor Day next year would be great. July 4th would be fine. Memorial Day weekend would be okay as well. Any of those three I can work out. And I'll come down for it. We'll even do, you know what? We'll even do a live generation. We'll do a live Generation Orange followed by a live Down in the Valley show from the parking lot. Once I talk to them about fixing their Wi-Fi out there.
Well, we do have a 50-foot long Ethernet cable.
I don't think that's long enough for that.
No, I know, but at least we can have it in like up on top, like in the press box or something.
Yeah. No, and but seriously, I do want to make it down for a match. Ask Edson. I went out to a preseason match in San Antonio with him, so it's not like I didn't go to any matches. Technically, I just went to a preseason one, but I did make it out for one. I drove half the way, 3/4 of the way back, 2/3 of the way back. Yeah, you slept for that last hour. So that was.
So you drove 1/3 of the way back.
It was more than 1/3, and the only reason I asked, to be fair, I asked if you wanted me to drive earlier than that. You're like, no, I got it. As he's slowly starting to doze off while he's driving. Like, okay, my dad is that type of driver, and I swear I was holding on to the oh shit bar more often than I should have been because I swear I thought he was going to, like, granted, he's a straight driver. Like, that, for falling asleep at the wheel and still driving straight, that was impressive. But when your eyes are closed and you still got your hands on the wheel, I am getting concerned. And I asked him repeatedly at that point, Edson, are you sure I can take over and drive? I'm all right, bro. Eventually he caved, but it wasn't until we got that was about an hour because it was when we got to
at Sealy.
Yeah, it was at Sealy when we got to 36. But yeah, no, I seriously would love to come down for a match. I want to get you guys up here for a match too. An Open Cup match or something next season, so you guys can actually see some of your boys playing as well with the Dynamo. Man, do you see how like freaking circles under the eyes, bags under the eyes tonight, man? I'm like dying over here. I had to get up early. It was 7:30 this morning. To be fair, I left before you did this morning.
Too bright in there.
Well, yeah, no, the lights are crazy bright, dude. Like, see that? That's how bright that light is. That's bright. Like, it even makes me look like an angel, and that's impossible. So, anyways, see what happens when you call me out. I don't back down from challenges. Just so y'all know. Just that never happens.
So what's your take on the U.S. Mexico match, Ray?
Boy, I had to watch the tail end of that match at a local joint because not only was the rain coming down hard in Edinburgh, Texas, I had to pull over on the side, get inside an establishment, watch the game, and boy, I was really surprised with the United States attack and how they were able to manage the game despite being peppered by Mexico all game long, you know. And I think they just waited for that one moment to spark the CONCACAF rivalry to what it was and to what it still is. I mean, it's still the biggest rivalry in the CONCACAF, regardless of what Central Americans say. I thought it was a very good match for the USA despite the minimal scoreline of 1-0.
You know, I want to chime in with a take on that match as well. To be honest, that match came down to one thing. The U.S. needed that match, whereas Mexico wanted the match. And I think if you think about it, that makes sense, right? Mexico didn't need that match.
Mm-hmm.
They had already proven themselves with a World Cup run and qualifying and everything like that.
I would disagree with you.
Okay, from a Mexican fan standpoint, no. From a team standpoint, from a national team standpoint, they did not need that match. It was an international friendly. It means nothing to them, other than money in their pocketbook.
I get you.
So for the U.S., though, they needed that match. They needed that spark. They needed that moment. They haven't had a moment like that in 4 or 5 years. And so they needed Miazga. They needed Tyler Adams. They needed McKinney getting hurt. As crazy as that was, it actually sparked their offense significantly, having McKinney go down. So I look at that match from that perspective, and the way that match plays out makes total sense to me now because I see Mexico dominating because, again, they didn't need the match, but they were the better team on the night, in my opinion. They really were. I know U.S. fans are going to eat me alive for that statement, but they really were the better team for the duration of most of that match. But the U.S. needed it. So the U.S., I just felt like, put something extra in that match. They had something extra they were playing for. Mexico is playing for the national pride part of it, and they always want to beat U.S., but the U.S. had more on the line from that match. If they lose that match to Mexico, that is a bigger disappointment at that point than Mexico drawing with the U.S. Now, Mexico did not want to lose that match. There's no question about that. But at the same time, as soon as that red card happened, it changed everything about that match. So, but I agree with Ray. That rivalry is, without a doubt, the rivalry of CONCACAF, period. And the rivalry needed that moment as much as anything.
Thank you, Matt Miazga.
I mean, we're gonna have memes for decades now off of that. You know,
We actually have one prepared for the Open Cup final.
nice. We need a TiVo with that for a Open Cup match against our CCL match when we win Open Cup.
So I'll tell you off the air what we're thinking about it.
Nice.
So what else you got for us, Ray?
Not much else. I mean, great come from behind win for the Toros on Saturday. I mean, it was real refreshing to see how the Toros were able to come back and create 2 set pieces opportunities of their own. And Mr. 100 himself, Mr. Todd Wharton, with a beautiful display with his passing accuracy. It was a well-played game from the guy, and it was a nice display of character from the Toros.
Too white. I know, but I'm also too white. No, Ray, you're right. And I want to say something, and I keep saying this. It's these types of matches that should remind Toros fans and Toros on the fence fans, if you will, that this team is good. There is a ton of talent on this team. And if they can find a way to become consistent next season, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the league. And I think if you listen to analysts and things for the league, they've said that. You know, they've willingly said this is a very good team and can be very scary when they're on. When they're off, which is where the inconsistency comes in, that's where they're not a very good team. So I think you have, and of course, the analogy is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde style team. And I think that's what you see is some matches, and you never know what match it's going to be. Some matches they come out and they're the most dominant force in the match. And then some matches they come out and it's like They could care less about being on the pitch.
Sometimes in the same match.
Half to half, or 10-minute periods or, whatever. But it's the consistency. And it's consistency because of a lack of confidence. It's consistency because they're young. And it's consistency as a result of just not having played together all that much. And now that they've played together, that's where you start to see that consistency coming in. And I think, they've had a couple of bad results in a row before this past match. But I think you also look at it and you go on this, on the greater whole, at the big picture, this team has a lot of good things coming to it next season because these players have had more time together. They've had more time with coach. They've had more times with the tactics. They've had more time with the formation and the style of play. They've had more time, just to gel in general. And, it's always great to end on a positive, right? Well, this team is geared up for a very good run next season. Now, whether that very good run is just making the playoffs or something more, I can't say yet until we know what offseason moves are made. I might know a couple. Or, until we know, who gets signed or who gets traded or who gets, released and replaced or whatever. We really can't say what this team is going to be next year. But I also know that there is hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and as miserable as this season and last season may have been, it's an improvement over last season without a doubt at this point. Maybe not statistically necessarily, but I think at the end of the season, if you look at the end of last season versus the end of this season, how do you feel going into next season versus how did you feel going into this season? You even said it at the end of last season. In the offseason, you were like, I don't even have a team to field right now. Whereas going into this season, as long as the offseason doesn't end up having everybody gone, which it won't, but you feel better, right? You feel more confident going into the season, even if it's not a strong confidence of, dude, we're going to boss this league, but just as long as we, and you've said it, as long as we have these same players next season, we should be okay. And I hope more Toros fans and on the fence fans can take that step back, take a deep breath, and go, yes, bad results for 2 seasons, whatever, but realize that it's improving. It is getting better. I wish some Dynamo fans would do the same thing, but it is getting better, and there is proof to show that it's getting better. It's not just something that some random dude that's Dynamo fan keeps saying, but it's because there actually are results to speak to. Whew, okay, my rant is over.
Good stuff as usual, Sean.
Thanks, Ray.
To add to that as well, because Sean said exactly what needed to be said, but at the same time, season, we don't know who's going to most likely stay and who's going to most likely be added. There is a great field for next season for a playoff push, but it goes back to, can you stay in this form constantly? And what I mean by that is, look, we have knocked off Orange County SC twice. They've been up on the stands basically in second place for the whole season. We just knocked off Real Salt Lake's affiliate.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, last season won.
That's the only teams that basically we have beaten, and we've beaten good teams. But and we talked about this earlier in the show, we can't beat these smaller clubs. We don't really care about that. So if we can get rid of that mentality for next season, this team is going to be insane. But that only question is, stay that way, because I think it's just a form of mentally we don't care about this team that much as we care about the teams up there. Gotta say.
Well, and I think that's a young player mentality, right? That's where that comes from. If you think about it, an immature professional mentality is, man, we know we can beat these guys, so you come out and you don't necessarily give it your all. It's like we should stomp these guys. And then when it's the better teams in the league, it's like, man, we got to play up to these guys. Like, we know we can beat these guys, so we're going to come out and give it everything we've got. It's the team needs to come out in week 1 next season, and they need to have a chip on their shoulder from week 1 until how many weeks are in the season? A lot to week one. A lot. Apparently, that's the number. Week a lot. From start to finish, they need to have that chip on their shoulder, and they need to know. They need to know, and it needs to be accountability. But they need to know, and that comes from coach, and that comes from the front office, that you have something to prove. It's not you coming in here and you're already successful. You're not successful the moment you step on that pitch. You are not successful when you've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches. You're not successful until you hoist that cup.
And even then, you're still not successful because it's Division 2. There's still always somewhere to go.
And so you always need to be improving. And I think that you're starting to see 14-week schedule is what is that Harry? Wow, dude,
34.
You've got to change that color for those usernames, bro. That is horrendous. Good God, how do you guys let him get away with that? You do that for Generation Orange? Because if so, I got to slap you upside the head. Yeah, he does. Okay, good to know. Yeah, change that, please, because, man, that's blinding me. I can't even read it. And I'm, not that far away. But in all seriousness, that's not... Do it blue or something. Yeah, do it space... Well, I guess you had it blue, didn't you? No, you had it...
It was light blue.
That works better. I can read that. That's good. But 34-week schedule. He corrected himself. I misread.
No, you misread.
Okay, 34-week schedule. So there you go. Week 1 to week 34. But they've got to come out with that chip on their shoulder for the entire season. They've got to come out as individual players, but also as a team, and say, we've got something to prove. We aren't satisfied with the result from this season, / by the time they get to next season, it'll be last season, but we're not satisfied with those results. We're not satisfied with how we came out. So because of that, we're going to come out with a fire. We're going to come out guns blazing, kind of like the Dynamo did last year and did to start this season. They came out pushing every possible cylinder they can on that, machine, if you will. They were pushing and pushing and pushing because they were not satisfied coming out with a slow start. And RGV can't afford to do that next season. RGV has to come out. Players have to come out. The team has to come out. Coach has to come out with a chip on their shoulders. They have to say, it's not good enough. We know we can do better. We've got to do better. And it doesn't matter what team we're facing. We've got to prove it week in and week out. And anything less than proving it week in and week out is unsatisfactory. And if it's satisfactory to any given player, that player doesn't belong playing for the Toros any longer. Because it means they're satisfied with the status quo and with mediocre play. And it means that they're satisfied with low-level USL. And that's not acceptable. That should never be acceptable, no matter what level you're at. If that's acceptable in MLS, that player shouldn't be in the MLS. You can't be satisfied. And look at any superstar in any league in the world, in any sport.
Just look at Cristiano Ronaldo. He won
Look
everything.
at Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the perfect example. How many championships does the guy won? Is that going to stop him from playing at 40 years old as a quarterback?
And accepting pay cuts in order to...
And because he's hungry constantly, and to be fair, he always has had a chip on his shoulder. He always has something to prove, season in and season out. That is the genius of Bill Belichick. And I hope that is something that Gerson can figure out how to instill in these guys, that you have to come out with that chip on your shoulder. You have to find what drives you every season. Because success one season means nothing going into the next season. Failures last season mean nothing going into this season. You always have something to prove. Your past successes and past failures mean nothing the moment that the season is over. The moment that USL Cup is lifted by whoever lifts it, whether it's your team or another team, that season is over. Everything that happened in that season no longer matters. And so I just hope that Gerson instills that in these players. Because as young players, they need to hear that. They need to understand that, and they need to realize that. I'm done. At least with that.
So, yeah, Harry says, verify 34 games over 33 weeks, which is 2 weeks
Harry.
Longer than this year. Thank you, Harry.
Oh, so there's going to be 2 more weeks of matches is what he's saying. Or two more matches this season? Or just 2 more weeks?
I think it was 2 more weeks.
You sure? Because they added some more teams, didn't they?
Yes, he did.
But they are moving some to USL 3, aren't they, for next season?
Yeah, and they just actually announced that the Richmond Kickers is another team that's going to be moving down to D3.
See, that makes D3 actually a fairly competitive league. That's intriguing.
But it's all about, and the thing is, and it's one of the things that actually came out is the fact.
Austin Bold, he says. RGV Indoor Soccer.
That's Ray.
Oh. Agreed, Ray. Agreed.
But he also they also said like one of the biggest reasons why the kickers moved down.
Thank you, Harry.
Is because the cost to enter. The difference is huge between D2 and D3.
Of course,
it's in the millions in D2,
yeah.
and D3 I believe it's 500,000.
And what? Just a few seasons ago in USL, it was 500,000, right? You know, it was so much less, and now, you know, just like MLS has become astronomical to get into the league as a franchise, you know, to even put in a bid for expansion into MLS. It's the same thing with USL. As USL has grown and has had this relationship with MLS, it's given them the validity that they've needed to really spread out and grow to become that supporting league, that supporting structure and infrastructure for MLS and U.S. soccer in general. And I hope it continues because I do believe USL is absolutely the way forward. And ASL sucks at this point. USL is the way forward. And I think USL D3 opens up so many possibilities in the long term to be able to have USL-based promotion relegation. You know, you're going to have your D3 affiliates that are with MLS clubs. You know, that's different. But your teams like Richmond Kickers that, you know, yes, the cost to get into D2 is going to be more expensive. But at the same time, if they perform well enough in D3 and can prove that, hey, we can hang in D3, then I feel like at maybe not in the next few seasons, but 5-10 years down the road, you know, that there should be a promotion opportunity there. And teams that struggle in D2, they should be relegated, you know, and have to prove that they're able to sustain. Mm-hmm. Because I think one of the things I get scared about in terms of USL is stagnation among teams that are kind of the middle teams, right? You know, the teams that maybe are the, you know, right below the top 6, if you will. Mm-hmm. You know, your teams that they regularly do well enough, but they're never the champion, and they're maybe right at the cusp of playoffs. They may make playoffs every so often, but not every year. Those teams concern me because what's their incentive to make playoffs other than, hey, we want to win the trophy? But other than that, from an organizational standpoint, they're not making any more money doing that.
And that was one of the concerns that a couple of Toros fans made when they lost against Phoenix Rising. They said, the fact is, it's that same guy I told you, that Toledo guy.
Yeah.
That's one of the things he said. The fact is that there's no pro rel.
So I should take it with a grain of salt, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But he said that pretty much because there's pro rel, you know, that gives no.
There's no pro rel.
Because there's no pro rel.
I was about to say, unless you know something I don't know.
Because there's no pro rel in U.S. soccer, that it leads to mediocrity, and because of what, especially with the Toros.
And see, that I completely disagree with, just in terms of the Toros. I don't. That has nothing to do with it. It's young players. It has nothing to do with complacency. The complacency I worry about is for your middle teams and your middling teams that maintain and your indies, if you will, and you know, the struggles of the Toros are not just the Toros making, but they are fixable at this point by the Toros and by the Dynamo not meddling in this offseason too much. They can meddle a little bit, but not too much. And I think you'll see that this season. I don't think you're going to see a wholesale change coming. And actually, I know you're not going to see a wholesale change coming. But there are going to be some moves. No, you can talk about it. There are going to be some moves that are going to happen. And they're going to, some of them might be a little surprising. Some of them will be like, holy crap, the Dynamo actually do give a damn about this team. And so, don't hurt yourself over there, Edson. So all I'm saying is, and I've said it multiple times, have hope, have faith. It's going to get better. I say it every time. Have faith. It will get better. But beyond that, just understand that the Dynamo as brother or big brother organization or whatever, as part, what do we even call Dynamo compared to RGV? MLS
daddy.
Affiliate?
They're daddy.
No, we're not going to call them daddy. MLS, they're the MLS affiliate for the Toros. As the MLS affiliate of the Toros,
the parent club.
The parent club. They care. They really do. And they care about the success of this team. Now, I've said it before, the success of this team is measured very differently for the Dynamo versus RGV, but those two measurements of success are not mutually exclusive. You can develop young players and have them move into MLS and still have a damn good team with RGV that can vie for USL Cup. So just remember that just because the Dynamo do maybe take one or two players this offseason, probably one or two most likely, that means that they see success happening. That also means that RGV Toros are probably not going anywhere, regardless of what you may hear from people who think they know things. I don't know where that one came from, but you know who I'm talking to. Just saying. Yeah, I'm done.
Ray, any last thoughts before we go?
You were aching.
No, I mean,
FIFA, aren't you?
It was really funny what Sean just finished saying. Regardless of what you hear of, that's kind of like, hey, what you know.
I know a few things, brother. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not saying, just saying,
Hey,
you know. type of thing.
Precisely, Ray. You read between the lines very well, my friend.
It's always good chatting with you, Sean. You bring a spice to this show that it really needs from time to time.
I mean, somebody has to bring spice to a show that in a predominantly Mexican area, right? Isn't that how that works? Somebody has to bring the spice.
Yeah, true.
Oh man, leave it to the white guy to bring the spice. Jacob, are you white too? I've never actually met you in person. I think it probably needs to change at some point.
I'm technically Hispanic,
See,
but
there you go. See, all right. So it's the white guy bringing the spice to a predominantly Hispanic show. That's pretty funny.
You do provide some great insights regarding both organizations. I mean, despite not being down here on a daily basis.
Ouch, bro! Low blow, my dude. No, I hear you, and I really do mean this, Ray. I'm coming, and all I'm saying is there will be another opportunity for some sort of, I don't know, friendly wager that takes place, and I will beat you,
no.
and you will own up to whatever it is that we make as a friendly wager.
Cesar is still pending. That's good.
You know, maybe we'll do a. You know what? Maybe what we'll do is we'll do a predict the RGV season before the season starts. You know, point total and then win loss draw.
Oh, you mean like the one we were doing with
Computer.
That's fine.
Did the computer go to sleep or did the monitor just turn off?
The monitor.
Okay, I was worried though. So you guys can't see this, but his monitor just turned off, and that's where the video and everything was. All right, good. So we're still. That's good. That's great. Anyway, so that's what I think we should do next season. We talked about doing other things, but let's keep it Toros focused. So next season on Down in the Valley. So what we'll do is let's do 2 weeks left in the preseason, so that we have some preseason that we've seen, some Dynamo preseason that we've seen at that point. And we kind of have already seen some of the moves that are going to be made, or all of them, as the case may be, by that point. And so we know this is the roster makeup. This is what we can expect going into next season. And I say we win, loss, draw, come up with point totals, and then whoever comes closest, they're the winner, and we'll come up with some prize. Maybe we'll buy a small little trophy so that they can actually display this little RGV trophy. Maybe we get a bowl on top of something. You know, sounds like a great trophy for the Down in the Valley thing. And then the loser, Ray, I'm looking at you, is going to have to do something at a Toros match. And I'm going to go on the record right now. If I lose, I won't. But if I do lose, I will own up at a Toros match, which means you can guarantee that if I lose, I won't. But if I do, I am coming to a second Toros match next season. Not just one, but two. See, I don't mess around. Just like in the World Cup stuff, I don't mess around. I don't play. Like, we either go all in or we go home. That's just how it is. So
the way that Sean is so confident, if I lose, which I will not.
But
like,
to be fair, Jacob, did I not do that before the World Cup when we made our predictions?
Yes.
Did, but that's a totally different thing.
You're not wrong. You guys know USL way
You
better
nearly
than I do.
predicted Tunisia to draw England, and that nearly happened too.
Look, okay, I'm just saying, guys, I know a thing or two about soccer. I know it's crazy, but I've watched it so long that I've kind of learned a few things. But no, seriously, like when it comes to USL, you guys know a ton more about USL than I do. And that's just coming from somebody who listens to the show, who watches the show, who takes in what you guys say, and pays attention to what you guys are doing. You guys know a ton more about USL. Harry, by the way, that is an open invitation to you for this win-loss draw thing as well. It's always a pleasure to come onto this show and talk with you guys and get a chance to share some of those insights that you guys talk about. Because I want to, and Edson knows this, I like to educate fans. It's something I take a joy in. And some fans take it the absolute wrong way, and some fans are very open to it because they want to learn, Edson being one of them, and you guys being others. But it makes such a big difference when you understand why certain decisions are made, because now you start to put yourself in the shoes of the front office. You start to put your shoes yourself in the coach's shoes. You put yourself in Chuy Enriquez's shoes.
Let's take also a look at the example that happened during the week with the media, and I said, because of the input that Sean had, that Victor put on that Generation Orange show, I realized why the local media does not cover the Toros. I was about to say the Totos. The Toros like we would like for it to happen, but it's not because like, oh, they just don't want to. It's just because it's not feasible at this moment.
You know, and let's highlight that for a second, because Greg Luca did respond to that tweet, and he said, well, that's not 100% accurate. Now, I think that's somewhat true in that each individual local media person makes their own decisions, or their editor makes the decisions. You know, one of the two happens. But as I said to Greg in follow-up, and I noticed he never replied to this, the key to it, though, the point that I was trying to make is if the difference is you have more people reading the articles and calling into shows and being vocal and engaged, regardless of what's going on with high school football. It's a big thing. Or some other high school sport. I don't know what else is popular down there. Volleyball. Sure. Volleyball. Basketball? No, not really.
No, that's later in the...
regardless of whatever's going on at the time, you find that those local media people will take notice. If they're seeing more views for RGV Toros articles than they're seeing for other articles about other stuff like high school sports, they're going to take notice. And the thing I hope Greg grasps in what I was trying to say is the more fans from RGV Toros that get engaged and are involved with the media in some way, shape, or form, the more that encourages Greg Luca's editor to sit down and say, Greg, I need you to cover the Toros more. I need you to write more articles about the Toros, because there's obviously an audience that we have not tapped into. And so...
Greg is the editor.
Even more to the point, right? Like, oh, I didn't know that. That's good to know. Hey, Greg, what's up, yo? Good to talk to you. But no, I mean, at the end of the day...
Shut up!
At the end of the day, all I'm saying is, and as editor, Greg probably has more say than some other local media people, but it's still important. He's going to, and he alluded to it. Yes, I do, notice the number of views and things, the number of reads and things like that. He goes, I don't necessarily weigh that in a specific way, but it still counts for something. If suddenly his articles for RGV Toros jump up 1,000 views more than he was getting the week before, he's going to take notice, and he's going to try to figure out what he did, because it's beneficial to him in the long run. Maybe it's not necessarily about the views, but it does count for something. And he's right, the stories are super important, but the stories don't have to take a back seat. It just opens him up to be able to cover Toros more often, because now that's what's generating those extra views. And he has someone he reports to. Even if he is the only editor there for sports, he still has someone he reports to. Whoever the manager of the paper itself is, he still has someone he reports to. So if he can show that, hey, these Toros fans are super involved and they're reading my articles and they're like loving and having a great, they're engaging, commenting on my articles and sharing my articles and involved on Twitter, who knows? Maybe he ends up with his own guy that can cover the Toros maybe not 24/7, but somebody that can cover the Toros more frequently, so he doesn't have to be the only one doing it. That's all I'm saying. Because not the Dynamo, but the Houston Chronicle decided Corey Ripken wasn't pulling in enough views because Dynamo fans weren't engaged enough, and we saw Corey gone.
Press F to pay respects.
Please press F like 6 million times because the guy was one of the best. He still is one of the best. It sucks that he's doing it for Tennessee of all places. Anyways, I digress. All right, you need to go play FIFA, bro. Like, you're just like sweating over here to play FIFA. He's just
go play FIFA, Edson.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna look. Okay, I'm gonna let Edson go, and Jacob Ray and I are just gonna close out the show. We're gonna go another 30 minutes, and I'm just kidding. I'm gonna walk away before I get into another conversation with you guys. Have a good night, guys. It was great talking to y'all.
Thank you, Sean.
Y'all are the best.
So what I actually did want to bring up, is that what I want to do for the last match of the season against Fresno, I want to do another live show at HB Park.
Ooh.
We all know that HB Park's Wi-Fi is.
We're not doing it. We're not doing it next to the field. We're gonna be doing it close where my 50-foot Ethernet cable can reach.
Hey, don't worry, Edson. I can vouch for a few more internet cables. I just need to gather some of my couplers together, and we can make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have an extra one as well.
Yeah. I think all we need to do is pretty much get in contact with Ronnie, and we should be good with that. I think I really want to do one live one more time, kind of to redeem ourselves from the last time. But I think I just want the last match of the season at home to be kind of special, and continue to get our name out there with the fans. Having said this, guys, any last minute thoughts?
No, not at all. Thank you for the platform, and we shall see you on the 22nd, hopefully.
Definitely, man. And with your permission, may I use the videos from the Barracuda's tryouts to upload to the...
Absolutely.
All right. So, guys...
Absolutely. I'll give them a share.
So guys, this weekend, the Barracudas had their tryouts for this next season. We will be posting those videos on our YouTube channel, so you guys can check it out. You guys are interested in learning more about the Barracudas and the MASL. And of course, it's keep on supporting RGV soccer, whether it's the Toros, whether it's FC Brownsville, whether it's the Barracudas. But let's support professional soccer down there in the Rio Grande Valley. They bust their butts out there week in and week out, to try to get enough trust from the fans in order to represent the RGV. Jacob?
Not really any last thoughts. Just, let's go Toros, and hopefully we can finish out the season with a couple of wins.
All right, guys. So thank you all for tuning in tonight's episode. Really appreciate all your support, all your participation in the chat, things like that. Ray, thank you so much for calling in.
No
and
problem.
we'll see each other. We will be. There is something that we're working on for next week, and when everything is confirmed, we'll announce it on our social media. So be sure to follow us on Twitter and on Facebook at Down in the RGV. So you can get confirmation of what we're brewing up. It will be an interesting topic. That's all that I can pretty much say right now. So you don't want to miss this. So until next week, my name is Edson Ochoa, accompanied by Jacob Young and Ray Silva. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure once the podcast and
Sean Ringrose.
Exactly, and Sean Ringrose. So be sure when the podcast goes out or when the video finalizes its rendering. By the way, guys, if the audio is unsynced when the video of the live stream renders, it isn't anything on our end. It's on the YouTube server's end. It's something that's very common, and there's nothing really I can do about that. So be sure to wait for the with a podcast when it comes down to Stitcher, Google Play Store, iTunes, as well as SoundCloud. So be sure to share that and subscribe to those platforms for Down in the Valley. Be sure to also check out our friends at the Beautiful Game Network at the BGN FM on Twitter and Facebook, and then their website, bgn.fm. Be sure to also check out the articles that these guys write. Ray writes for BGN Written under the Orange Blocks.
Actually, under BGN News, but you see a slew of collection of writers from across the U.S. South. And I recommend one piece. It's by the Sounders 2 National from Haiti. Great story. And there's a bunch of other collaborators on there from the new team, Birmingham Legion, and so on and so forth. And my latest piece came out earlier today on the doubleheader at HB Park.
So be sure to check that out at BGN News. And Jacob writes for last week tonight.
Last word on sports.
Last word on soccer. I was about to say last week tonight. Sorry, guys. But yeah, last word on soccer. So be sure to check out his articles with them. They are good reads. And be sure when you do check them out, be sure to share it with all your friends. And that way we continue to share the word of Mr. Toro to everybody in the Rio Grande Valley. Thank you all for your support. We'll see each other next Thursday. Have a good night. Take care.
Good night.